What I'm presenting about today is using technology to create awareness about AIDS in the youth. So before I go to that, I want to introduce myself, because I'm not a government or a UN official, and I'm like to say some things and about myself. So my name is Betelhem Dessie. I am 19 years old, and I am currently a software engineering student in Ethiopia University. But I'm not only a student, I also have a company that I founded. So it all started when I was 9 years old. I was actually born and raised in a small town called Harar. I don't know if many of you know it, but it's the fourth holiest place in the world. So that's something. And I started coding when I was 9 because I wanted to celebrate my birthday. And then I was in my father's shop. So I asked my father for some money, but he said no. So people were coming to buy mobile phones and mobile memory cards. And then I copied some music and I edited some videos for those people. And I made about $60 that day. Then I celebrated my birthday. So I figured this tech thing actually makes me some money, and it's also very interesting. So why don't I develop a website that will promote my business to other people? So that's how I started. Next slide. I'm currently working in a company called iCog Labs in a partnership. iCog Labs is an AI and robotics company, does anybody know Sophia the robot?
Yes.
So it's the Ethiopian company that has contributed to the development of that humanoid robot. So what we do is we have collaborated to do two projects. One of it is called iCog Anyone Can Code. We teach kids from age 8 to 18 on the basics of coding, AI and robotics, because we believe that having these 21st century skills are very essential to the growth and development of one's country. And another thing that we do is called a program called Solve It. So Solve It is a nationwide innovation competition. We cover about 15 cities in Ethiopia, and we're planning to expand to other countries. So I'm working on these two projects. I also work with the International Bureau of Education, UNESCO, to bring these coding and robotics skills into the curriculum of K to 12. So, to the point, so I want to talk about my awareness first. So, next slide. So, in primary school in Ethiopia, we learn about HIV and also AIDS, how it is transmitted, how you should act towards people with AIDS and such. So, it was an education that we took. But it was nothing more than, something you write on paper or something you study just to pass the exams. So recently, I don't know if many of you know it, but there is this film coming out, which is the Bohemian Rhapsody. So Freddie Mercury, who was the lead singer of the group, the Queen, was diagnosed with AIDS. So I was seeing the trailer of the movie, then I read about Freddie Mercury, and I love their music, so I started researching about it. So actually, most of the documentaries made for Freddie Mercury revolve around his diagnosis on AIDS and his life with AIDS and such. So I started researching and seeing more videos. And I saw how it impacted a lot of lives around him, and how it impacted his own performance, because he was not able to talk to people about it since before before he died. So that was very sad for me, and it really moved me, and I saw what kind of person he was and how much of an impact he brought to the world. But because of this, he was not able to continue doing that. So when the organizers contacted me, that's what came to my mind first. And then I thought about it and I did some research. So I am working in tech, and I'm also youth. So how can we engage the youth in using tech? So that's what I was thinking about. And from the research that I've seen, age groups from 15 to 24 are more impacted with AIDS in the world. And there are different kinds of infographics. I myself have designed infographics for AIDS posters and such. But these posters are, not really targeting the youth. I understand that there are a lot of people also out of the youth who are also impacted by the AIDS, but we are not really being focused on. So, for example, you can see the social media presence. At this point, for example, for me and most of my friends, we're not scared of the AIDS because we don't know people who are affected with it, or they don't talk to us about it. So we don't really have the awareness. It's just the education that we have from the schools. So we have different platforms. We talk about different things, but we don't talk about AIDS. And to be honest with you, I don't know why that is, but we need to figure it out. And that's why we need to engage in tech. Next slide. Next slide. Again, next slide. So when we talk about technology, you can see in Ethiopia, I just saw a research last week, and it said Ethiopia has the worst toilets, right? So a lot of people, for example, I'm from the east part of Ethiopia. We had the worst toilets, but we had technology, we had phones, we had computers. So even though people invest in technology before they invest in their toilets, so that's how much of the priority it is now currently. So and especially the youth has these technologies. And when you see, this is actually, I was just looking around about research papers, and the only paper that I found using cell phones to address AIDS is in 2006, which is done in South Africa, which is again sad, because in a continent like Africa, in which we have leapfrogged into mobile technologies, and most of the farmers have cell phones now, and then we have access to use SMS, USSD technologies, there are still no really concrete research about how to use these kind of technologies to actually change and also help people living with AIDS. So this was also sad for me. And next slide. So the first question I had when they told me about the conference is, okay, we're celebrating World AIDS Day, right? So where's the hashtag? I don't see it. I mean, people like me are, on social media. We talk to our friends on social media. We do our homeworks on the internet. So where are the hashtags? Where are the social media ads? Is it something that we shouldn't care about? But I believe that it is something that we should. There are other platforms that a lot of users use. For example, in Ethiopia, we especially use an application called Telegram, right? So Telegram, we have different channels. So one of the channels that I am a part of is called Vent Here. So different youths come to that platform to talk about, there are people who have talked about depression, there are people who talked about cutting themselves, a lot of things, but I didn't come across anything about AIDS. But we can create a platform in which these people can discuss anonymously, because most of the time not talking about AIDS is because youths are afraid of discrimination. So what we can do is create this kind of platforms for people to talk about. And for example, I was also reading another article this morning, and it said most children, when they are trying to taste for HIV or AIDS, it's usually connected with sexual intercourse, right? Their parents usually think that they can only contract HIV or AIDS through sexual intercourse. So they're afraid to ask their parents for this kind of test. But usually, youths have their first sexual intercourse before 18 years old. So that's something that we need to discuss about. And tech is, I think, the best way to reach these youth and also talk about what's happening in the world. And if they do exist, I don't know about them, or most of my friends don't know about them. So please tell us about what platforms there are, and if there's not, engage us in order to develop those platforms. So that's my message, and this is my presentation. Thank you very much.